Hey everyone, this is going to be a coding tutorial on HTML, JavaScript and CSS project, and it's going to be called Weather Website. I make coding tutorials here on this YouTube page, so if you are new to this channel, consider subscribing and let's get on with it.
In this section, we will go through what exactly do we want our app to look like. You want to make a rough diagram, or if you have any reference, I recommend this website called Excelidro. You want to paste your image here by just copy pasting it, and you would want to use the drawing tool here to draw and lay the sections of how many sections you think it's going to be. As you can see, I already drew my sections right here. And I also have some for the mockups like desktop view and tablet view and the mobile view. And as you can also see that within the first container that I have here, on the top, I have it labeled as A and then B, which gives me an idea of how many elements do I need within the first container. And within this one, I need 2 more elements. The second one, I need only 1 element. Within third one, I need 2 elements, one at the top, one at the bottom. On the fourth one, I need 2 containers inside the container. So this is going to be a little bit complicated. And within the A container itself, we're going to have 3 elements. And then code this on the left, the second one on the right. And then A2 and A3 goes on the top and the bottom. And as you can see, A and B looks very similar. So we're going to copy the styles from A and paste it to B when we code so that we don't repeat ourselves. Now that you understand this, let's start making the files and start coding. In this section, we will make some files for our project. So right now we have a folder called HTML, CSS and JavaScript project. I'm going to make a new folder called 01-weather app. Within these, I want to have 3 files, index.html, style.css, and main.js. And I want to import the images folder from my laptop. What I want to do now is connect all my files together. So in my index.html file, I'm going to type exclamation mark and then tab. And then I'm going to hide the file explorer by typing command V. And I'm going to press tab and then tab again. And what this one is going to do is bring me to the title. I'm going to change this title to weather app, and then you will see it in a moment. If I go live right here, you can see that it says weather app on here. And what I want to do next is connect my CSS file. So I'm going to type link and then tab, which takes me to my reference. So I'm going to reference my current directory and then connect it to my style CSS. And then just above the closing tag of the body, I'm going to type script, and I'm going to click on to the one that says script source. Go in my current directory and type main.js. And now I want to go back and forth into my Excelidro for the reference of what I want. To start with, I want the outside container that's here, which you can also see in this one as well. So I will start typing dot container to make it a container class. Then I'll go back to my weather app, which is live view. I will go to my CSS file now. And I'm going to reset some styling like margin, heading, box sizing to border. I want to reference my container class, and I want to give it a property of border and a value of 1 pixel solid black. And I will display a little bit here. You can see it. I'll do 10 pixel per second so you guys can see it. I'll back to 1 pixel. I also want to give it a minimum height of 97 viewport height. And I also want to give it a margin of 1 rem, so it's spaced from all the other sides. The border, I don't want the pointy, so I'll also give a border radius by typing BRS tab, 1 rem. So that's curved from the sides. And we have achieved our first task, which is having the outside container. We will start by coding our 4 containers by making 4 divs inside our HTML tag. So I will go inside my container and I'll make inner container class, 4 of them. And what I want to do is come back to my accelerator and I want to name them unique. So the first tab, I want to name this as a search box. The second one looks like a weather icon to me. So I'm going to come here and give it a class of weather icon. And then the third one looks like the temperature to me. So I will do temperature. And then the fourth one is just some temperature details. So I will just do that. I'll come back to my CSS file and the weather app here. What I'll do is I'll give all the inner container property of border to 1 pixel solid black, which is right here. I want to have all these 4 containers flexible, the inner ones. So I want to also give the parent class a display property of flex. It changes the flex direction to row, and I want the flex direction to be column. So I'll do that. It's going back up there. If you have a flex container, you can allocate the spaces for 12 if you have a small container. So what we're going to do is, as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 2, and then 7, which is take the leftover space for the last one. And I'm going to target all those 4 elements. So the first one is the search box. I'm going to reference by typing dot and then the search box, and then add a property of flex in it. So this is me giving instruction to the search box, take all the space that you have left and don't leave any for the others. But if you have more spaces in this one of their own, then it won't take all the space that it's taking now. It's only taking space, which is the leftover space. And we also want to target the weather icon class, and then use the flex property and then give it a value of 2. It's like we have here 2, and then the next one would be 2 as well. I'm going to go back to my HTML, reference the temperature in my CSS file, then give it a property of flex to 2 again. As you can see, 1, 2, 2. And if I give the last one temperature details, property of flex, and give it a value of 7, then it's taking all the leftover space here, which is what we want. And it's looking sort of similar like this one. What we want to do now is we want to finish section by section at a time. So within the first container, we have 2 elements, A and B. Let's code that. This one is an input field and this one is a button. So I'm going to go in my HTML file and go inside this container, the search box. I want to also space them out a little bit so that we can clearly see which one we're coding. And this time it's a search box, so go inside that one. I want to have an input of text, and I want to name this one search input, and I also want to ID this one to search input. Now I want to add a button, and I want to give this button an ID of search button, and inside the button I want to have an image, and I want to source this to my current directory where the images are, and I want to give it a search.png file. I will reference these files under the YouTube video, and I want to give this an alt text of search icon, and also an ID of search icon. And this is looking really ugly at the moment, but we're gonna come in our style search CSS file. We're gonna make this one a flex container, the first thing. So in our search box, which is right here where we are, we're gonna have this one a display of flex property, which now stretches the whole item. And just like before, where we gave the property for the 4th container to the max, I'm going to give the flex property for this input to 1 so that it can take all the space. So what I'm going to do now is target that class. So search input. I want to copy that and paste that ID by typing hash, and then open the curly braces, and then give it a property of flex to 1. It's checking all the space. And we also want to have a little bit of the space from left, right, top, and bottom. So we are going to give it a margin of 2 rem from top and bottom, then 1 rem for left and right. I also want to gap this one because I don't want that to touch the input box, the button. So gap of 1 rem. And this is perfect. And this is looking really big at the moment. So what I want to do is target all the children in the search box by this space and then asterisk. And then I want to give it a height of 3 rem. And we want to get rid of this border at the moment. So we will just go into our search box and give it a border of 0 so that that can be removed. Once this is removed, we will also make this a little bit curved. So we can come in our search input and give it a property of border radius to value of 1 rem. I also want this icon button to be round. So you want to reference this ID search button and come under here, hash, paste it, and then open curly brackets and type the property border radius to 50% to make it round. This image inside is looking really big. So what I want to do is I want to reference this image right here. And I want to give it a property of transform, a function of scale to 0.4. You can give between 0 to 1. I'm giving it 0.4. And as this one is looking nice, you can also see that we have all the direct children inside have a height of 3 rem. We also want both to have a color white. So I want to change the background to white for any children inside. We also want to change the background of this container. As you can see, there's a different background. We don't want to stress out about how to get this color exactly. Just change it to a slightly different color for now. So I'm going to come in my container and background to say white. And then I'll change it to just a little bit different here. And now what I want to do is I want to get rid of the border here. So I'll come in my search box and all the children inside. And I want to give this a border of none. And now what I want to do is see this space here. When we use the flex property, we said have the content there, but use it after you have the content. I'm going to delete this flex here from the search box. And it's only taking the space that it needs. I also want to delete this border property of 0 from search box so that you can see it right here. And I only did this so we know what section we're working on. Since we're not working on this section anymore, I want to delete this from CSS. And this is where it's coming from. So what I want to do is only target the second, third, and the fourth container. I'm going to use the nth child function and give it the second child and third child and the fourth child. And that will remove them from the container here. I also want to test when I type my text right here, which is really small. So I want to come in my search input, give it a font size of 1.3 rem. And that's looking good. I also want to add a little bit of the space at the start. So I'm going to use a padding of 1 rem. We're finished with the first section. Now we'll go on to our second section. So we're going to do the second section now, which is this container. And since it's only one item, this one's going to be really easy. I'm going to close this inner container and I'm going to open this weather icon container. I will add an element here of image, and then I'll connect that to my file called sun.png, and then I'll have the alt text of sun icon. What I want to do now is I want to copy this weather icon class. I'm going to go in my styles.css and find that, which is right here. Since this is a parent class, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the properties of display to flex in here. And I'm going to justify the content to center. And I'm going to align items to center. Since we don't need that room on the top and bottom using the flex too, I'm going to delete that for now so that we only have the sun here. I'm also going to remove the border that is around here using this property, and I'll just delete the property that says select child 2, and we're on to the inner container child 3, which is going to be this temperature class. And if I come back on my escalate row, you're going to see that I have two elements here, one on the top and one on the bottom, which is going to be my temperature number and then temperature 9. What I'm going to do right here is close this container and then open the temperature container. I'm going to have two elements here with the classes of temperature container. And I also want to name the top one and the bottom one temperature number for the top one. And this one's a name, so I'll say it's a temperature city. That what I'll do is I'll have a dummy text here which says it's 17 degrees Celsius. And if you want that symbol in your Mac, you can press onto Shift Alt and 8, which gives you that degree symbol. In the second one, I'm going to type Melbourne as a city. Now that I have two items here, I'm going to target this parent class, which is temperature. I want to make this one a flex container. So I'll go right here. I'll give it a display property of flex. We're going to justify the content to center, line items to center as well. Now that it's right in the middle here, I also want to change the flex direction to column so that it can sit one on the top, one on the bottom. And because we gave this both two classes, which is separate, I'm going to target the temperature number class, which is right underneath the temperature. I'm going to give this font size of 2.5 rem. And I also want to target the next class, which is going to be the temperature city. And I'll make this one a little bit smaller than the numbers. So I'll target this here. And I'll give it a font size of 2 rem, which is very clear. I also want to get rid of this border now. So I'll just come up. I'll delete the third child from here. And now it's only the fourth child that has the container. I also want to get rid of this container after I finish with the fourth one. Since we're done here, let's move on to the fourth one. We have to make two containers, and within the two containers, you have to make 3 elements inside them. So I'm going to go to my weather app again on my Chrome, and in my index.html file, I'll close this temperature container, and then I'll open this temperature details container. And within this container, we have to make 2 different containers. I'm going to give it a class of temperature details in a container, make the 2 of them. Also want to go back to my escalator and see this one is a humidity and this one's a wind speed. So I also want to add another class here which calls humidity, the one's wind speed. So we have these 2 containers. I'm going to target this class temperature details in a container, copy it, come to my style.css, and then target this class right on the bottom. I want to give this one a border of 1 pixel solid black, so you guys can see where it is at the moment. So this is where it is. I'm also going to come back in my index.html and build the skeleton for these 2 classes. So within these 2 containers, we have 3 elements, image, and then 2 divs. So I will open that humidity one, add an image tag, source it to our files humidity.png, and then give it an alt text of humidity icon. Also want to give it a class of humidity icons that later. I want to make another container inside of that called humidity container, and then dot humidity number, humidity name. And I also want to give this one a class of names and give this one a class of numbers. Once we have that here, we'll give it a fake number at the moment for 78%, and the name humidity. Also want to build that in my wind speed, so exactly the same as here, different images. So I will have an image class here and connect that to the wind speed and give it an alt text of wind icon. I also want to give this one a class of the temperature icons as well, icons, so that I can reference both of them together. One container inside this one called wind speed container. And inside that, I want to have two elements, wind speed number and wind speed name. I also want to give this one a class of numbers and the bottom one a class of names, so that we can target these all together. I'll give these numbers at 25 kilometers per hour, and then the name to wind speed. Make these a flex container, so I'll target these temperature details class right here, and I'll give it a display of flex, and it's only taking the room that it needs. So what I'm going to do is I want to give this one a property of flex, so they can share the same amount of room that is left. Right here, copy this class that shares both the icons here. I want to give them a width of 5 rem. Make this one a flex container, so I will go to my index.html and I will target this class, which is right here, and I'll give it a display of flex, and then justify content of center, right? They can come in the middle, and then give it a line items of center as well. I want to give all these children a flag, so I'll target this class is asterisk, all the children inside, and give it a border of 1 pixel solid black. In the container, there's two, which is one, and then the second container. So I want to have a gap between this icon and the container. So what I'll do is I'll give it a gap of 1 rem, which is right here. I also want to target the numbers class. And give it a property of font size of 2.5 rems, and then target the name to the property of font size to 1.5 rem. And I want to remove the border now, since we don't need it. We know where everything is. I'll remove the border here, and I'll remove the border from the fourth child right here. And I also want to remove the border from here. I also want to clean this up a little bit. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in my container class selector, and I'm going to remove the border from here. I also want to change the background color of the container. So I'm going to remove this. Now I'm going to add a linear gradient function here to 260 degrees, and the color to B9 E4 E4. And the next color is 948 DE. Now I want to select my body class selector here. And I want to give it a background of linear gradient function, which is 260 degrees. and a color of 99DC and the second color of 695 EDB. First one here is 99, and then I want to give it a font family of Arial. I also want to change the color to white and give it a text shadow of 1 pixel, 4 pixel, 3 pixel, and RGBA value of 46, 19, 180, and 0.4. And now we go to our JavaScript file, and here it's empty because we haven't done anything yet. So we will go back to the Google Chrome, and then you're gonna have to type the website called webapi.com and just sign up. And when you sign up, you'll get a screen like this. You're gonna have to copy the API key and come back to your JavaScript file and type const API key equals that key, and then I'll go back to the weather API, and here I want to know how to get the data, so I'll go in API Explorer to see what do I need to type or go query so that I can get the weather. So here I'm gonna paste my API key that they gave me. I'm using the HTTP protocol and format would be JSON. That's coming back. The query would be London. So now I'm gonna click on show response, and this is the URL that we need. So I'll copy that, and once I copy that, I'll come here and I'll open the quotes and paste that. I'll go back to this one and see the response that we got. So we need the name of the city, obviously, to confirm that that's the right city. We need the temperature to know what's the temperature there. We also want to know what the conditions are there. And then I'll go back to my main.js file, make it a little bit bigger because we're not using this one at the moment. And then what we're going to do is make a new function called API, and then give it a params of city, and I'll return a string here. I'll cut that here, and I'll paste that using the backticks, and I'll delete the single quotes that I had before. So here where it says it's API key, we already have that here. So what we're going to do is delete that from B to 9 and add a variable here, $, open curly braces and close curly braces. And in here, I want to type API key, which is from here. And then Q equals the city. So $, open curly braces, close, and then city in the middle. So that's my function so that I can call that later. What I want to do now is when someone type in this search input, I want to capture that. So I'll make a new variable called const search input, and then I want to query the search input ID, and I also want to query the search button. So I'll make another variable called const search button, and I want to query search button, and I want to now request the API to get the data. So I'll open an async function, and I'll name it check weather, and I'll give it a parameter of city, and I'll open that, and I will give this a variable of response, and I'll use await to fetch the data, and then I'll give it this one, an API of city right here, and then I'll use the variable data to await response. And then we need 5 things that we need to render, which is we need to know what's the weather like to change the weather. And then we need to know the number. We need to know what user have entered is correct or not. So if it's correct, then it will come up here. We want to use the temperature, which is right here. We also want to use the city, which is here. And then we want to know what's the weather like, and that you can get it from partly cloudy. And the humidity and the wind levels would be
wind, and humidity. So to get this weather icon, I need to come in my index.html file and open this one and search for the weather icon, and which is here, image. So I'll give this one an ID of real-time weather icon, and then I'll copy that, come in my main.js file, and then I'll query that using document.querySelector. And because it's an ID, so I'm going to use a hashtag and then the ID name, and then I'll give it a source of empty string now, but I can also assign like some other image, maybe like a humidity one, just to give you an example. Or like it was sun before, so I can do rain.png and it will show rain. Now I want to come back in my index.html and then target this one, which is temperature. So we'll close this weather icon div, then we'll open the temperature div, and we need from here this temperature number. So right here we have the temperature number, and I also want to give it an ID of real-time temperature. I'll paste that right here, and I'll give it a text content of an empty string for now. Then I'll also come back in my index.html and use the city now and give it an ID of real-time city name, and then I'll copy that. I'll come back to my JS file and paste that right here and give it a text content of nothing, or maybe like let's say city name for now and 5 degrees or 4 degrees. And then I also need the humidity and wind speed, so I'll come back to index.html file and then close this div and open the bottom one, and from here I need this numbers one, so I'll give it this one an ID of real-time humidity and copy that, and then I'll paste that right here. I'll give it a text content of empty string, and then I'll do the same here. I'll copy paste that, and then I will go to my index.html file and I'll give this one an ID of real-time wind speed. I'll copy that and come to my main.js file and paste that. So all of the ones here are targeted now, so I can change that. I want to use this button that we queried before, so anytime a user click on this button, this one will trigger. So I want to add an event listener here, search button dot add event listener, and I want to give this one an event of click, and I want to use an arrow function here on that, and then I'll run the check weather function that we made just before, and then I'll pass this search input that we created, which is going to be a Melbourne or something, or London, or whatever city name you want to do it. So I'll type search input and the value that anyone's gonna enter there. So I will click that, and what I want to do here is I want to console.log the response so that we can see it in real time. So I'll get that here. I'll open the terminal by command option and I, then I will go to console right here, and then what I will do is I will type here Melbourne, and then I'll use this box search one. So when we was doing styles, we didn't set this one property. I'm gonna come back in my styles.css and find this search button, because when we clicking on it,
we can't let the user know that it's clickable. So I can give this one a property of cursor to pointer, and then when we come back here, it's telling me that it's clickable. So I'll go back to my main.js file so you guys can see it and click this one. Now we got the response that we can work with. So I'll open that. I'll open current and I'll open the location. So I'll come back to my location, which is right here, city name, and then I'll type the data, which is from here. Then I'll come back to my response and I can see that it's in location. So I'll do data.location dot and then name location dot name. So when I go back to my JavaScript file again, type Melbourne and then search it. Before we proceed, this close brackets was meant to be right here so that we can access the data.location.name. So what I'm going to do is go back to my Chrome, type Melbourne, and then search for it. And then if I delete this one, and then if I come to my Chrome and search for Melbourne and then click it, you can see that Melbourne is coming up, but everything isn't. And in current, we'll get the temperature, which is data.current.temperature underscore C. So right here, I'll come and delete this data.current.temp C. Now we're going to get our temperature as well. So if I click onto the Melbourne, it comes up as temperature as well. And then I'll do the same thing right here, data.current. And then I'll come back and see where it is. So right here, humidity. Then I'll do dot humidity. And then I'll do that here as well, data.current dot wind in kilometers. So I'll copy that and then paste it right here. And then if I click onto the input and search for Melbourne, you can see that it's coming in temperature, but it doesn't have the percentage and kilometers per hour. So right here, I'll just add plus and open strings, add some space, and then percentage, and do the same thing here as well. Plus, and then open the string and then add space, kilometers / hour. So when I go into search box and type Melbourne and search for it, everything is now incoming in percentage and kilometers per hour. And if I do Paris and I search for it, you can see there's 8 degrees in Paris and 87 degrees humidity. And I'll also just add the degrees here. So Alt Shift and 8 in Mac and then C, which gives you that. And then I'll just go in my index.html file. I'll delete the wind speed here and I'll delete the percentage right here. And then I'll also go into our temperature and delete that as well. And now we will work on our icon. So the last thing we will do is we will see if it's raining on sunny, and then according to that we will change the icon to rain or the sun. Now I've got the whole list in the file when I put that on the reference under the YouTube video, and it says reference documents, and under that it's a JSON file, and that tells you all the weather conditions like sunny, partly cloudy, overcast, and then mist. And there's a lot of them. They're close to 100 of the codes, so you can assign yourself if you want. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you only the rain and the sun. You can always add into your images file. So I'll close that right now and I will go in my main.js file and under the render, and I'm going to delete the render and I'm going to put the condition. So if, and then I'll go to the weather API, and we're looking for this at the moment. So it's under data.current.condition.text. So I'll come back here and say data.current.condition.text. And what I'll do is I won't do anything here, and I'll console log, and I'll copy this one and I'll paste this here. I'll comment that, and then what I'll do is I'll query it again. We got Sunny here, so what I want to do here is if we get Sunny for the response for here, I want the icon to be Sunny, everything else I want it to be rain. So there's a lot of scenarios when it's not going to be sunny and not going to be rain, like cloudy or overcast. I'll leave for you to do that for your exercise. You can download the files and then you can add it in your images folder and add another condition. And I'll say if that is equals to sunny, I want to add a variable here called weather condition equals to empty string. And then I want to say if this returns sunny, then weather condition equals to sun. Anything else, I want it to return weather condition to rain. And if you have cloudy, for example, then you can add another condition here. You can say else if, and then you can add right here. You can say this data.current.condition.text equals to cloudy. Then you can change weather condition to be cloudy. Just make sure that you have these images files the same extension, because if you have the cloudy here, then it's going to look for cloudy.png, and if your file is cloudy.jpg, then you will have problems. So make sure you convert that into pngs as well, and look for the ones with the png background. They usually are the ones where they have transparent backgrounds. So I'll delete that, and I'll also uncomment that. And what I want to do here is I want to delete the single quotes, and I want to add the backticks here, and I want to delete the rain, and I'm going to use the $sign and then open and curly braces. And here I'm going to add weather condition as my variable. So just here, and then index.html, I'll delete that right here in the image file. Just make sure you also delete the alt tag. We can always add that in JavaScript. So delete that, and that will disappear, and your app looks pretty plain at the moment. So just that. You can also delete this and then add that later as well. So what I'm gonna leave that here, and I'm gonna select Melbourne again and search for Melbourne, and it says it's sunny, which you can see right here. 17.2 degrees Celsius. It's in Melbourne. Humidity is 48%, and the wind speed 16.9 kilometers per hour. So congratulations, guys. You made your first app, and I wish you the best in making more.
So I recorded this video before, but I'm telling you that now that I'm super proud of you that you finished this video. And this is such an excitement when you build something of your own and then you can showcase. Make sure you tell your friends, make sure you tell your family, hey, do you want to check the weather of this state or yours? Just go to this website and have a look. And I made this website, you know, you're so proud of this website. So I'm super proud of it. And if you want another tutorial like that, just go in your comments and say, hey, another tutorial please. Keep going and just keep getting better day by day. And happy coding.